Okay, we'll call the Tuesday, August 15, 2017 meeting of the Everett Planning Commission to order, starting with the roll call, please.
Chair Holland,
Here.
Commissioner Tisdale,
Here.
Commissioner Sand,
Here.
Commissioner Jurgensen,
Here.
Commissioner Beck, Commissioner Zelinski,
Here.
Commissioner Lavra, Commissioner Dunn,
Here.
Commissioner Lard.
I'm here for now. Let me fall.
Stay here, Adam.
Living on the edge.
First item of business is the Planning Commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes from the last, looks like August 1st meeting, and if so, any comments, corrections, or motions?
I have one correction to it. So on the second page, down where Commissioner Beck stated that she would like to have some acknowledgement in the plan that there was a public access, acknowledgement and recognition that there is hope at some point in the future that the access is actually provided to the neighborhood again was kind of the point. So, thank you.
Any other comments or corrections? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I motion that we adopt the minutes.
I will second that.
Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Commissioner Lavra,
Yes.
Commissioner Zelinski,
Yes?
Commissioner Beck,
Yes.
Commissioner Jurgensen,
Yes.
Commissioner Sand, Commissioner Tisdale,
Yes.
Chair Holland.
Yes. Okay, Commissioner reports. Commissioner Lark, anything for us this evening?
Nothing to report.
Okay. Commissioner Dunn?
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Lavre?
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Zelinski?
No report?
Commissioner Beck?
Yes, I actually went to Wazoo's open house today, which
great.
was fascinating and exciting and makes me want to go back to school. I actually have a request for a report, or maybe not so much a report as like a summary of the conversation that was had with the Downtown Association and the opioid substitution, THS, the people who are providing it. I'd like to kind of just have a written synopsis of what happened in that conversation and what were the key points. I know you talked about it a little bit, Alan, last meeting, but also what the next steps are, and is there an anticipated schedule in terms of what we'll be doing next with this particular code amendment? So, if we can get something in writing. I've had a few questions about it.
Yes, I can provide some follow-up in writing to the commission.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Jorgensen?
No report.
Commissioner Sand?
No report.
I was there too in my Husky shirt. And it was great to see the North End and the whole community come together. And there were lots of comments made about, from people that aren't from this community, on how we rally when there's something happening in this community and they don't see that. So, you know, we hear and read a lot of bad in the press about our community, and it's not all bad.
Oh, it's I got to admit, it was incredibly exciting to see the classroom environments that these kids are being educated in. It was, like I said, it made me want to go back to school.
If I may, though, the part that I liked the most was the cross-laminated timber stairway. I think that was extremely interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Built material nerd in me was very excited.
Great. Any comments from staff tonight?
The only comment is that our next meeting will be on September 5th. We'll talk about the Metro Sub-Area Plan. Don't remember which particular topic of the plan, but that'll be our next meeting after tonight.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, this is an opportunity from anyone in the audience to address the Planning Commission on items that are not on the agenda tonight. If so, please come forward, state your name and address for the address, or for the record. And seeing none, we do have one item on the agenda tonight, which is the Snohomish County Courthouse edition. If there's going to be anyone from the public that wants to speak to this matter, please fill out one of the sign-in sheets and get it to the recording secretary. And other than that, I'll turn it over to Alan. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Giffen, Planning Department. And I'll start with the site plan, the first slide in the PowerPoint, and a little background information. Then I'll turn it over to Bob Eggleston here, the project architect. from Erie International, who's working on this for the county. And I'll start by saying that, and this isn't the easiest to read site plan from across the room where you sit here, but the site plan that you see in front of you represents 3 blocks that are bounded on the east by Lombard, on the south by Pacific Avenue, on the west by Wetmore, and on the north by Wall Street. This is a 3-block area that is the county campus that is the subject of a 2002 rezone to the Plan Development Overlay Zone and a development agreement between the city and county. This was initiated at the time that the county was planning some major redevelopment of the county campus, most of which is, well, all of which has been implemented. The buildings that you see here are all buildings that have been constructed consistent with that master plan that was approved under that 2002 development agreement. The proposed change that we're talking about tonight is this area right here, is the location of the proposed addition to the north side of the existing courthouse building. And the reason that it's coming before the Planning Commission rather than being reviewed administratively is that under the criteria for amendments to a Plan Development Overlay Master Plan, any plan or any change that reduces the amount of common open space on a master plan is not considered a minor amendment or minor modification, and therefore has to go back through the Planning Commission and City Council. This is really the only substantive change to the development agreement that we have proposed, is really to approve the request to approve the change in the site plan. It'll be accompanied with some elevation drawings, and we've even got a draft of an addendum to the existing development agreement that's in your packet tonight. Unlike some plan development overlay zones that are fairly complicated, such as the riverfront or the port waterfront master plan, that this is a pretty simple amendment, a lot simpler than approving or reviewing the master plan for the first time. We will, after the conclusion of the hearing, look for the commission to give us any questions that you may have that you would like answered before we come back on October 3rd for a public hearing and decision hearing for this amendment, which would then be passed along to the City Council. So unless you have questions of me on process or background, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Eggleston, trade chairs with him, and he can walk you through the proposed courthouse addition.
Any questions, Alan, at this point? No? Okay.
Well, good evening. Bob Eggleston. I'm the project manager with Erie Design, and so we're overseeing the design of this courthouse addition and the renovation, so we're happy to be able to share some additional information with you, and this is a really important step in helping progress this project to construction, so we're looking forward to maybe share some additional details for you with this. Just to touch a little bit on the background of the project, the mission behind the addition and the renovation is really to provide a more safe and secure and efficient environment for not only the public, but the staff and the judges that are in the building. There's a lot of inherent problems in this old 1967 building. It's been cobbled together over the years. It's been renovated a number of times. The circulation systems do not provide the security for staff and inmates and the public like it should. So part of the mission of this is to do what we can with the limited funds that are available to really right-size and try to correct some of the things that are inherent in this building. So on the screen, it shows you that really we're not adding new departments, we're not adding additional departments or additional employees, but it's really right-sizing the building because it's been cobbled together, spaces crammed in over the years. They're not sized properly for an efficient work environment, or one that is really satisfactory for the employees that work there every day. So we are making additional room that is more workplace-oriented for the staff that is there. We are also creating, finally, a permanent home for the 13th judicial seat that's in the building, so that the 13th judge right now is a roving judge because she does not have a courtroom. So this is now going to provide that permanent courtroom for the judge. We're also using the addition to brace the existing building and to help it seismically. So this is really going to be a twofold secure upgrade for that building to aid it so that the two will then work together. We're also expanding and remodeling spaces for accessibility. That's a real problem in the existing building. We're going to provide a new stack of public toilets that are fully accessible. The new courtroom is going to be fully accessible, and then we're doing some additional ADA upgrades to other areas in the building. So here's just a quick summary of what will change inside. In the addition, brand new public entry, and I'll show you the floor plans. It'll give you an idea how nice this is going to be and more accommodating for the public to the building. Brand new public elevator cores that are accessible, efficient, faster than the ones that are there now. A new exit stair, again, seismic bracing in the courthouse. A brand new home for jury assembly. So we're taking them out of these really cramped quarters and giving them a more comfortable space for the citizens. Within the courthouse, that's where we're going to do the new restroom stack that's accessible. We're tying in some of the new spaces to the secure inmate transportation zone and the circulation system in the building. We're able to consolidate departments that are spread out all over the building at the moment, and that's, again, ties back to the efficiency of the plan. We're changing where the employees come in to a secure tunnel now for a new security checkpoint down there. And then for the fire department, we're going to sprinkler the entire building. So now that's going to be much more safe with having a fully sprinklered building. So I'll go back to the site plan again. Alan's touched on this a little bit, but just to cover maybe what we're thinking of from a site standpoint. We have the existing plaza that's out in front of the administration buildings. And right now, there is an existing north plaza in front of the courthouse that doesn't relate really to the rest of the site. And since the addition's going here, what that is allowing us to do is now create a terminus for this east-west plaza. Now it will terminate at the entry of the courthouse. So that will really round out the whole plaza system on the county courthouse site and the admin building. So now from a site standpoint, we're really starting to define the edges of that plaza and create a terminus. So the addition goes here to the north side. We're going to take out the other hardscape that was in here, and I'll have a site plan to get into a little more detail that's in here. The memorials are being relocated that are currently existing in little areas around the site. This is the new memorial relocation. So this is the terminus as you come up those large wide steps of the existing plaza. This is fully accessible. It's going to be entered at grade from the south side. We're relocating the service flags, the large American flag, and then the eternal flame on the front side. We have some nice seating areas on each side. The steps approach from Wall Street. You can walk up the steps and to the memorial. So this is going to really consolidate and provide a nice area for all the memorials that currently exist there. As you go down Wall Street from the plaza, which is up here at this end, we are taking out the hardscape. We're leaving the eagle sculpture that's there now. And then we're taking out all the retaining walls that are really an impediment to enjoying that corner of the site. And then we're going to regrade everything down, create a nice lawn that will be accessible for people to get out and enjoy. And then with some landscape and ground cover up closer to the building to kind of keep people away from the courthouse proper. We're going to continue the line of street trees, the same pattern that's already been established up at the plaza. That will march down Wall Street. We're going to provide some seating areas up toward the courthouse. This is a fairly steep grade as you go up the sidewalks. That'll give some respite for folks that maybe have trouble getting up the sidewalk. But this will really open up nicely to the intersection and be a nice frame for the back side or the west side of the courthouse addition. So I'll step you real quick through the floor plans. Won't spend a lot of time. Just starting with the basement, the public elevators and the egress stair will go down to the basement now. We're relocating the law library from the first floor down to the basement. For the first floor, the addition is really dedicated on this floor to a new entry and screening lobby. So you come up the entry stairs here. This is a little bit light, maybe hard to see. Come up entry stairs, in through a vestibule, and this now is a very generous queuing space for the public when they come in. Right now, there's not enough room inside for queuing, and so they're standing out in the elements. So now we can get everybody inside, out of the weather. There's also a generous canopy out on the porch of the courthouse to give some additional cover. We'll have a couple of security lanes for screening, and then they come into the main public corridor system. The jury assembly and law library that have been relocated off the first floor, we're now going to relocate the criminal hearings courtroom down to the first floor. That's an existing courtroom. It's very high volume. We're tying it directly to the inmate transportation system and circulation system. So now all the high volume courts are on the ground floor, so we can try to contain the public that are coming to high volume courts on one level, not have them circulating up through the building. On the second floor, this is where we have relocated jury assembly out into the addition. If you've ever served on jury duty for the county, the long linear jury assembly space is very cramped, cramming a lot of folks in there, and it's not comfortable. And really, when we think about designing a jury assembly space, we owe it to the citizens who are giving of their time to serve on a jury. So we want to give them a comfortable space with comfortable seats. We have some break areas. We've got some tech areas in there so that folks can feel more comfortable when they're giving back to the government in this way. So it's going to be a very nice space for them. On the third floor, we are consolidating the district court. It's spread out over a lot of different areas. So the third floor is a consolidation of those courts. On the fourth floor, we are relocating some of the sheriff's department that is on the east end of the building out into the new addition. And then here is where we're adding the new 13th courtroom for the roving judge. So now she'll have her own courtroom and chambers on the east end of the building. And then finally on the fifth floor, we've moved court administration around, so we're giving them now consolidated, contiguous space on the fifth floor from being spread out into different areas. So that pulls them all together on a single floor up close to the superior courtrooms. And then lastly, just to touch on maybe some progress exterior images, we had given you some preliminary elevations in the submittal that we sent you. So now these are some more updated renderings that we have. This is the east view, and you can see how we now are terminating the plaza. You can move up the entry steps onto the porch of the courthouse. So clearly now it's a much more defined courthouse entry pavilion. That's going to be easily identifiable. We have handicap access that will go up through this bosque of trees on the left side of the little entry plaza. So there's a way for them to get up onto the porch and into the building. The material palette for the addition is going to unify the courthouse with the rest of the campus. If you've seen the Druhl building, it has a palette of materials. So now we're bringing some of those materials or similar materials over to the courthouse addition to try to unify the campus and make it more whole. So this is a view right off of Wall Street looking at the corner. And you can see how Wall Street steps down. We've got the little seating areas and the street trees start to march down Wall Street. And then our final slide is back at the corner of Wall and Wetmore, and you can see the nice lawn that rises up. We have lots of glass, lots of daylight, natural light that'll come into the addition, so it's going to be very workplace friendly for the staff that'll now be working in the addition. So we've really tried to enhance not only the safety and security, but the employee experience and the public that's coming there. So that would wrap up my presentation. Be glad to entertain any questions that you might have.
Any questions from the Planning Commission? I have one question. So what's the anticipated life of the refurbish of the existing courthouse?
The hopes is this will extend it about 50 years.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
Was there a previous, maybe for Alan, but was there a previous proposal for the courthouse And wasn't there another proposal that was made a couple of years ago? Or am I?
You're correct, there was discussion about a new courthouse in a different site.
I see.
And the county decided to obviously not build on that other site and to do this addition instead.
That's, I was just wondering about that. I recollect something about that, and I think parking was an issue, and there's a couple other factors, but this is basically the scope has changed, or the scope of the project has it been scaled back a bit?
It's much reduced from that previous project, which would have been a new building on the other side of the street and different zoning and different review process. And so this is much scaled back in terms of the square footage that was discussed at that time. And so, yeah, it's an entirely different project.
Okay, thank you.
And speaking of parking, Alan, reading through this, it sounds like they're not adding any employees. So normally a parking calculation is based on a square footage. When we add square footage, we add parking. But in this particular case, does the city view that as they're still under the threshold of the original development agreement?
That's correct. This property is within the area that's subject to the development agreement, and under that development agreement, there's a limit on the number of county employees that could be housed on site without considering additional parking. Under that development agreement, the employment level currently is well below the maximum allowed before we have to start talking about additional parking.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So again, Alan, the only real question before the Planning Commission has to be about the fact that there's a small amount of common area that's going to be reduced by this new footprint.
Substantively,
All other issues within the master plan are in compliance.
correct, yeah, and there wasn't a standard set in the current master plan saying there's a prescribed amount of required common open space. It was really, at the time the development agreement and master plan was approved in 2002, it was based on the site plan that was proposed for the campus redevelopment. And it just so happens that the addition is going to remove some existing common open space. And that's one of the criteria that we have in the plan development overlay that distinguishes it between either a minor modification or something require a higher level of review before the Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dunn?
So if this was just to go through the administrative process, that would be faster, is that correct?
Right, it would not require, if it was a minor modification to the master plan, it would only be reviewed administratively and not by commission or council.
So by going through this process, it's going to probably not be voted on until November or so? Because the public hearing would be on October by the time the city council hears it 3 times.
And in this case, let's see, yeah, they would probably be around early November, early to mid-November.
And then was access to public open space or open space identified as a concern in 2002?
No, at that time, the county master plan was increasing drastically the amount of common open space on the campus. The kind of the amphitheater that you see from Wall Street was a significant increase in the open space that existed previously.
Yeah, because most events I've been to are in that atrium area, not in front of the courthouse. I'm just concerned, it seems like that this is a delay. And I heard a lot about public safety and employee safety, and it concerns me that we would be delaying this process by a couple months because of an interpretation of the final development plan that the reduction in open space, approved open space, and there's no set amount by how much we're reducing that by.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily an interpretation, it's a reading of the code that's pretty black and white, that if you're reducing the amount of common open space, that it doesn't qualify as a minor modification.
But if you were to put a tree up, that would be reducing open space.
That would be an interpretation.
I mean, I agree, it's taking a large portion of it, but there's no minimum amount that's defined, so any
Right.
change is thereby removing open space. So it just seems like it's an unfortunate delay in this process.
And just, on most, or at least a lot of the codes that I've read or whatever, you have to define what is a minimum and a major amendment, and that seems to be, the open space seems to pop up a lot, and maybe not on a case like this, but especially like in residential or multifamily developments or whatever else that they do that modification, you really want to take, real scrutiny of. In this particular instance, we have an area that, a lot of public open space, so, yeah. Commissioner Loffer?
Well, yes. So my memory is that north entrance to the courthouse was not very accessible at all. And having worked in the building many years ago, it sounds like all those improvements are really a great improvement, but it's been functioning for 40 years that way, so probably a couple months aren't going to make too much difference.
Yeah, this will certainly solve all of that. The little ramp at the connector between the courthouse and Mission is where the handicapped people have to go in, so they
Yeah.
cannot access it through the main entrance.
Any other questions? Well, I guess Alan was actually looking for maybe some comments on the development agreement. The commissioners had an opportunity to review the preliminary draft, and if so, was there any items that we needed to discuss with Alan before we bring it back for the public hearing? And while you think about that, I guess this is an opportunity for the public to address the Planning Commission on this item. If you'd like to do so, please come forward now and state your name and address for the record. Seeing none. Any other comments then on this topic?
Alan, before we have the public hearing on it, or the official action on it, would it be possible to have copies of those displays in our packet?
Yes, I apologize. When I was looking at this PowerPoint earlier today on my computer screen, I didn't realize how difficult it would be for you to see it across the room. So, yeah, we can make a printout of the PowerPoint available to the commission.
And also the traffic analysis by Gibson, is that available on the website, or?
I can get a copy to the commission. I don't think it's on our website, but we can put it on the website.
Probably the only one that likes to read those things, so.
History.
Yes, we can make that available to the commission and to the public.
Well, it looks like we're wrapped up our only item for tonight, unless there's other business for us tonight, Alan?
No, I guess just for the sake of the commission's next meeting, what we'll do is prepare a recommendation and a resolution, as we typically do. And based upon what I'm hearing tonight, no major concerns. But if you do have any concerns, I guess save those for the public hearing so that it's all done within the public record and, not sending them to me outside of the public hearing process. But tonight's the opportunity to flesh that out, and it doesn't sound to me like there's major concerns, but.
I have a couple, just comment, but by the way, it's very nice, very nice design. And on the streetscape, you mentioned security, and I'm guessing that's possibly some bollards and possibly could be integrated with some walkway lighting, but I know that you actually have to imagine the possibility that somebody might drive a truck into it or something like that. And
Right, and that is the vulnerable corner down there, and it could be a combination of things. We could have seat walls or bollards or a combination thereof. There's many ways that we can solve that.
yeah, and I understand we're sort of still a little conceptual here,
But I think the impetus is that we create a lawn that's accessible to the public, and it really opens up that corner.
Yeah, that is nice. Yeah. And what is that feature? Is that that obelisk-looking thing?
That's the eagle sculpture that's
Oh, yeah?
up there right now.
Oh, okay.
One end of that little plaza that's up there. Probably never noticed it.
No ownership there.
Thank
Well, you
you.
don't see it so much, you don't really walk over to that side very much, because it's kind of just blocked out over there.
I'd like to agree. I think it's a great design, and I'm sure that the judges are very eager and enthusiastic about getting this as soon as possible, and they had a lot of input in terms of how the floor designs were actually circulating and all that kind of stuff, so.
Yeah, they've really stuck with us throughout this whole thing, so they've been real troopers on helping us out with this, so they're definitely eager.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Dunn that we need to make this go as fast as possible, so.
They would appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other business for us tonight, Alan?
No, nothing more from staff.
Anything else from the commission?
Are we still waiting to go to other business later on, or is that?
Right now,
Okay.
no time. Did you have anything else, Mr. Jordan?
Oh, not on this.
Okay, well, yeah, we're done with this now, and so we're on to the other business, so if you have another
Okay.
topic. yeah.
Have you done any looking into the possibility of a design review board, or made any inquiries?
Not yet. I think, now that you mentioned that, I think that urban design was one of our topics for the next Metro workshop on September 5th, and we can talk a bit more about that on the 5th. But no, I haven't done anything to prepare a response to the discussion at the commission meeting 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, sure, Dawn.
Is there any update on the situation with Linda Browning and the handicap from the last meeting, the handicap spaces? I just feel like she got the runaround and got sent to 7 different places and a meeting that didn't happen.
Yeah, I had
Be able to meet
a
with
number
her.
of conversations with Ms. Browning following the meeting, and have put her in touch with the traffic engineer. And that's really where the concern that she was expressing to the commission 2 weeks ago, the responsibility for that lies with the traffic engineer. So I presume they've connected. I've given her contact information and traded emails and so forth with the traffic engineer on the complaint.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, I guess we're adjourned for tonight. Wow. Thank you.
Nice meeting. We get the whole crew here.